Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, I'm GC Smith, and welcome to day 2 of the Shadows of Innistrad spoiler season. And boy, what a set of spoilers we have for you today. But first off, let's start with the more mediocre spoiler with Macabre Waltz. 1 and a black for a common sorcery. Return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand, then discard a card. This card was actually recently printed in Magic Origins, and even then it was a reprint. Not to say this card's actually awful. I mean, it wasn't a high pick in Magic Origins. However, in Shadows of Innistrad, this card should see significantly more play, or at least a higher priority in the sense of filling your slots than it would have in Magic Origins. Because not only does it return threats to your hand, but it also fuels madness, which is pretty cool. The fact that also you sometimes just want to get a different card type in your graveyard to fuel Delirium. Macabre Waltz definitely strikes me as a card that could go and see play in Limited. Beyond that, this card art is absolutely awesome. Liliana dancing around with one of her zombie thralls is pretty sweet, especially with that absolutely amazing grin. It's just pure Liliana having fun in a graveyard, dancing to whatever tune she is dancing to with a zombie at her lead, or she's leading the zombie. Next up, we have a card which I believe is probably the start of a cycle, or part of a cycle. We'll go and see the second card straight after this. It will kind of lead credence to that. And this is Falconwrath Glutton, I believe, is one of the translations. Or Falconwrath Gorger is another translation. I'm not exactly sure on the name. But it is 1 red mana for a rare vampire creature with vampire creatures not in your hand gain madness. Yeah, each vampire creature you own that isn't on the battlefield has madness, and its madness cost is equal to its converted mana cost. Oh, sorry, its actual mana cost, not converted mana cost. There is actually a difference there. This card is really, really sweet. I absolutely love this card. It's very much a Vampire Matters card. It fuels madness, or I say fuel, it provides madness to all your cards and works really well with some of the other vampires, like the Heir of the Night we've seen, or whatever heir it was that turns into Heir of the Night, the transforming vampire that turns from a 2/1 creature into a 3/2 flyer. Pretty gorgeous kind of synergy with that kind of card, because then any vampire you ditch from that point on, you can pay turn it into a madness card. This card is really, really sweet and is definitely going to see a lot of play in aggressive vampire decks. Whether or not it's competitive enough for Standard, we have yet to see. My current guess is yes. It definitely seems to be a very powerful card. But it still has a lot of 1-slot cards it's competing with, so we'll have to wait and see how that works out. Now we're going to come up to actually the second card, the card I believe why this is part of a cycle. Now we don't really have a translated name for this, or at least I've not seen a correct translation. Actually, no, we do now, apparently. Tinted Chains. 1 and a blue for a rare spirit creature with flash and flying. And when Tainted Chains enters the battlefield, target spirit gains hexproof until end of turn. Also, you can cast spirit spells as though they had flash. This card is really awesome. Just like the Falconwrath Glutton or Gorger, this card provides a static bonus to all of your creatures of that type. This one may be slightly better than Madness, simply because it gives it flash, which means you've always got instant speed. And this card itself is an evasive flash flyer. I can already see a blue-white or blue-black spirits deck being playable, or maybe even a blue-green. There is a couple of green spirits in Innistrad, so we'll have to wait and see really what happens. Whatever happens, though, it's really nice to see cards like this. I absolutely hope Flash deck gets to be something. I'd love to play a Flash deck for a while. I absolutely love being able to do stuff at instant speed. Next up, we have the Mana Sources spoiler card, Sage of Ancient Lore. 4 and a green for a rare human shaman werewolf creature with power X and toughness X, or star, sorry. Sage of Ancient Lore's power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in your hand. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card, and at the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, transform Sage of the Ancient Lore. What does it transform into? Well, Werewolf of the Ancient Hunger. Vigilance and trample werewolf creature with power and toughness equal to the number of cards in all players' hands, which means this card gets really powerful in multiplayer formats. And it has typical werewolf, if someone casts 2 or more spells, transform it back into Sage of Ancient Lore. So what do I think? Well, I think this card has definitely got some EDH capabilities. I'm not sure if it's really playable in Standard. 5 mana for a star creature generally doesn't see much play, even if that one does draw you a card when it enters the battlefield. Sure, its other side is pretty sweet. Vigilance and Trample, and it's basically a double star creature, or at least it's going to be significantly better than a lot of other star-based creatures, because it counts both yours and your opponent's hands. Plus it has Trample, which is something I think a lot of the star creatures that we've seen in the past, cards like Consuming Aberration, for example, lacked evasion or ways to really push through damage. They could be chump blocked for days while you died. That said, I'm not sure how play will be. I think it's a limited bomb, totally, but whether or not it will see constructed play really depends on what kind of decks appear. Next up then, we have a really exciting card, To the Slaughter. 2 and a black for a rare instant card. Target player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, and if Delirium's online, they sacrifice both a creature and a planeswalker. This is a really sweet card. We've never had an edict for planeswalkers before, so it definitely seems like Wizards are trying to push good planeswalker-based removal. Though it does give the option to the player, obviously. So you're not going to be killing certain planeswalkers like Gideon likely with this, since they'll probably already have a creature to block with. But it's still an absolutely amazing card. Edicts are always fun. It's always nice to have good removal spells that are semi-good removal spells. Obviously, this will never replace, say, an Ultimate Price when you really need this, or Hero's Downfall or something like that, when you really need to kill a creature, a particular creature. But this kind of card can be very powerful in the right Standard format, and can be really good against decks like Control, where they have very few creatures, but ones they do have generally have some inbuilt protection. An absolutely amazing card. I absolutely love seeing this. Next up, we have Odrick Luna Marshal. 3 and a white for a legendary creature, Human Soldier, at rare. It's a 3/3, and at the beginning of each combat, creatures you control gain first strike until end of turn if a creature you control has first strike. The same is true for Flying, Death Touch, Double Strike, Haste, Hexproof, Indestructible, Lifelink, Menace, Reach, Skulk, Trample, and Vigilance. Wow, that's a lot of keywords on that card. But basically, it gives creatures you control pretty much any keyword if a creature you control has that keyword. It's like, hey, you know how to do this, right? Show everyone how to do it and we'll be best friends. I absolutely love the flavour of this card, and it's definitely a mono-white Commander playable card. I absolutely love this, to see this in Commander. Whether or not it sees Standard play, I'm not certain. It definitely adds utility to the red-white decks, but it is competing in that deck with the 4-drop slot with things like, I don't know, Gideon and cards like Pia and Kianalar. So I'm not sure whether this will see too much play, but it's definitely a sweet card for Commander purposes. And next up we have the most exciting spoiler of the day, another Planeswalker, Arlinn Kord. 2 red and a green for Planeswalker Arlinn, and by the way, this Planeswalker is absolutely amazing. She has 2 abilities on her day side, +1 until end of turn, up to 1 target creature gets +2/+2, and gains Vigilance and Haste, which is pretty damn awesome. And her 0 is put a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield and transform Arlinn Kord. Now, just analysing the front side of this Planeswalker with no minuses, she does a great job of protecting herself while still applying pressure to your opponent. Her +1 basically allows a creature to keep attacking your opponent while defending you, and her 0 gives you a creature to defend her with. But it also transforms her. So let's take a look at the transformed side, Arlinn Embraced by the Moon. Same Planeswalker type Arlinn, and it has a +1, a -1, and a -6 on this side. +1, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. Her -1 is Arlinn Embraced by the Moon, deals 3 damage to target creature or player, and then you transform her. And her -6 is you get an emblem with creatures you control have haste and tap. This creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player. So, yeah, this is just an amazing Planeswalker. Outright, it's so good. And in fact, there are a lot of people already comparing it to one of the strongest Planeswalkers of all time, Elspeth Knight Errant. And that is a fair comparison. Both 4-mana Planeswalkers, and both produce tokens. Both also have a really nice pump ability on one of your cards that you have. I think Arlinn's is one I actually generally prefer in her style of deck, at least. I understand that flying is incredibly powerful, and yeah, Arlinn doesn't do that with her +1, at least on the front side, but she does have a way to give damage push-through abilities on her werewolf side. So again, she's just really cool. Yeah, the fact that it also gives haste, by the way, is really good. So that when you do top deck eventually a big threat that you just want to hit the battlefield with, you can get in with that straight away. The fact that the wolf token is also a 2/2 is huge. We actually have been seeing quite a few of these create token, the 2/2 token for 4 Planeswalkers, all with a 0. Sure, it's just really sweet, actually. I just really like seeing these kind of Planeswalkers. It kind of gives predictability to what kind of things they do. But yeah, it's just such a good front side. And the back side is probably even better. I mean, sure, it doesn't protect you in the same way. But a mini overrun for all your creatures really helps finish games. And her -1 is, again, absolutely amazing. -1 to deal 3 damage to target creature or player. Might I show you, or tell you, whatever, that the only other creature, Planeswalker to do this has been red and blue, and that's Ral Zarek, and that's been a -2. Ral Zarek feels really silly compared to Arlinn Kord right now. This is just such a sweet Planeswalker. And she even isn't actually that hard to get her ultimate off. -6 to get that emblem is a really good ultimate. All your creatures gaining haste and the ability to deal their combat damage to a player without needing to attack. Or, you know, they can focus down creatures. Yeah, she is an absolutely amazing Planeswalker and will definitely see play in some sort of red-green Jund or whatever various decks show up around her. Pretty sweet and absolutely amazing card to see. Now, I know a lot of you are wondering about the last Planeswalkers. We know we're going to be getting Sorin tomorrow from Louis Scott Vargas, I think, which is going to be cool, really nice to see. No, sorry, not. Would it be Louis Scott Vargas or it'll be someone else? But either way, we know we're going to be seeing Sorin tomorrow. But we have had confirmation by Mark Rosewater that there are 4 Planeswalkers in Shadows over Innistrad, so looks like we're seeing Jace after all, which is pretty good. Hopefully that Jace does something to lower the price of Vryn's Prodigy by being so playable that you want him in your deck as well and you can't easily run both. So yeah, that's today's Shadows over Innistrad Spoilers, everyone. It's been an absolutely amazing day of spoilers, and I absolutely look forward to tomorrow's. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.